Hello, hello.
Hey, how are you?
Yeah, doing good. How are you?
I am so tired, but I'm doing well also.
Uh, I'm doing good. Mm.
How is the holiday season treating you?
I can't complain. It's been nice. Got together with my family, so it's been good.
Casey mentioned that you had a lot more family in the area than he did.
Yeah, I was like, we had like 20 people at my parents' house on Christmas Eve, so
That's nice.
yeah.
I am I am a member of a family where there would have been 20 people together for Christmas somewhere else in the world, but in another country. So, I miss those big gatherings. Um, nice nice vibes to be with everyone.
Yeah.
So, would you like to introduce yourself to the channel? I'm
Sure.
sure people generally know who you are, but
Yeah. My name is Anthony Giovanetti. I'm one of the co-founders of Mega Crit Games. Yeah.
and we did talk to Casey 3 days ago, I think. Although not everyone
Oh yeah.
here would have been there for that. It was good.
Cool.
Casey's rad. Casey is such a sweet human being.
Oh, true, true.
Yeah, and he cares so much about doing a good job about the things that he loves, which I
Mhm.
appreciate so much. Um,
Yes, I agree. Casey and I both are very perfectionist about things, so
mhm,
uh, I like that a lot.
yeah. So, how did you and Casey get into making games together, and how did we end up at Slay the Spire? I want to hear the story from you.
Okay. So Casey and I went to the same college together, and there was actually like a game club that we joined, and we're playing like fighting games and werewolf mafia, just like all kinds of different games together in this game club. It's like just big group of friends basically. um and at the time I was doing computer science, and we were talking a lot about like just game design, what we like in games. Casey and I were friends, and we're like, hey, why don't we try to like make games? Wouldn't that be cool? We think we have great ideas, so uh and at the time we were just like young college kids, so we're like, how hard could this be? And so during that school year, we started working on a Flash game, and I think it was like it ended up being over this summer. I spent like practically every day that summer, like over at Casey's house, and we were working on this Flash bullet hell shoot 'em up. Um, and then I think it took us around like 3 months or so. We released this game onto like some Flash portals. It was not a good game. It was terrible, but it was our first game experience, and that was like our foray into game dev. And so we learned a lot from that. It wasn't very good. We had like this moment where we learned a lot about like how the process actually goes, how important like playtesting is.
Did
Um,
you know as you released it that it wasn't very good? Or is
we
that
didn't
hindsight?
necessarily. So, this is like, I want to say this was like 15 years ago, so I don't
Sure,
exactly remember my
sure,
mental
yeah.
state, but I don't think it was that clear to me. It was like the whole framework that I have for thinking about games now is so different than it was back then, where it was kind of like more. I don't want to say. I mean, more naive, not in like a bad sense, but just it was more kind of like innocent, just like these. I like some things. These are probably good. It wasn't like very rigorous. I didn't have like kind of deep thinking about games or anything like that. So it was we thought it was decent, but it was just like way too incredibly complex. There was like every idea was in there. We had like so there was a shoot 'em up game called Ikaruga, which is a challenging bullet hell game where you could like change your shield colors, and depending on the color of your shield, projectiles of that color would be absorbed into it. And in that game, there's just 2 colors. In our game, we had 3. We also had like RPG mechanics. You could like level up. There was like a shop that you could spend money in to buy upgrades. There was also, you could like aim with your mouse. You could fire in any direction. Typically in these games, you don't do that. You just fire straight ahead and you focus on dodging. So we had all these different things. It was like just this huge mess. We didn't really... One of the things you really learn as you like get more into game design is the importance of like elegance and just like cutting things.
Mm-hmm.
Taking an idea you think is cool and then being like, okay, I like this idea. Like it's interesting, it's cool, but this is like too much. We need to cut it. You gotta cull it and actually like just get to the kind of the essence of the good stuff. And that's like, this was a non-obvious thing to me at the time. So I think we didn't really understand anything like that until we like actually finally put it in front of people. And we had a lot of these 2 different reactions where we had I think the majority of people who are like, man, this is way too much, like I can't handle this. But then occasionally you get some people who are like, oh my god, there's like so much depth here, I love this game, this is like my favorite Flash game. And like you know, people who are like super hardcore into it. So it was really interesting, but like for most people it just fell off. It was like way too much. So and we did like 1 day of playtesting, and that was kind of it, because we were just on 1 day we had some of our college friends play, and that's just like not enough. Like so this was a good first lesson in that. But yeah, that was very...
Is it still possible to play? Do you know?
Well, it's a Flash game.
Yeah, Flash is no longer alive. Right?
I think you could probably find it. It was called God Laser. If you Google it, you could probably find it on one of the old Flash portals. But I don't know. You know, I'm sure there's some way to play Flash games. I just don't know what it is.
Is Ultra Laser? I guess it's called Hyperbeam in English. Ultra Laser is the French translation.
Casey has always loved lasers. It's always been kind of a thing of his.
It's just a Casey
He just
thing.
loves lasers. So
That's great.
if we're ever playing a game together, because Casey and I still play all kinds of games together, we're always looking for a new co-op game to play together. If there's ever like a laser weapon, he's always like, lasers, and then he takes it out. So but yeah, so that was our first game, and then undeterred, really, we did a second game where we made an iPhone game, just a simple little infinite runner, because we were like, oh, let's like experiment with making something on the iPhone. This was pretty early into the App Store. There weren't like a ton of games in the App Store yet, or at least it was a much like smaller market, and this game also wasn't particularly good or anything. We were just like experimenting. But at the time, I thought it was pretty painful to actually develop a game on the iPhone, or at least I wasn't very good at it. So it was kind of just like a painful coding experience. I wasn't really digging it. We made this game. We released it into the App Store. It was like a fine little infinite runner game, nothing special. And then we were like, okay. We started to work on a third game, but we never finished that one. It was going to be a rhythm game. It's like a musical kind of game, and
Sure.
That one was a lot of work. And then partway through that, we stopped. Actually, like, you know, got degrees and went off into the business world and worked like software jobs. So. And then it wasn't until a few years later, because Casey and I kind of grew more separate during this period when we were just working at software companies, that we re-met with each other, started hanging out again, and we were like, hey, why don't we try this game design thing again and like actually take it more seriously. We like actually have experience working in software, working in the real world now, kind of understand things a little bit more than like the hobbyist level that we were at. And that was when we started working on Slay the Spire.
Do you like card games?
I love card games, yes. Okay. So that's always been kind of the joke, is Casey doesn't like card games very much. But I grew up playing Magic. So when I was a little kid, my first experience with Magic was I was walking in a mall with my grandfather. He was like walking my brother and I in the mall. And we were like super little kids. And at the time, Wizards of the Coast had like physical locations that they would actually like, run tournaments.
Was it the Crossroads Mall?
No, this was the Northgate Mall.
Oh, wait. I used to go to the Crossroads location before it shut.
Oh, nice. I actually, I miss that Wizards had those locations, because they were like super cool, especially to like young Anthony. But anyway, my grandfather took us in, and I saw like a pack of Magic cards. I think it was a pre-constructed deck. I think it was for one of the Urza's block sets, and like I just wanted it, so I kind of begged for it, and then my grandfather bought it for me. And I had no idea how to play the game or anything. I just remember like looking at the art, looking at the cards, trying to figure out like what they would do. Like, in fact, I actually have this interesting memory where I'm like looking through all of the cards in the deck, right? And I'm like, I'm looking at, it was a card called Cloud of Fairies, which I don't know if you know Magic very much. It's like I
have played so much Magic in my life.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. It's like one colorless, one blue. This little flyer comes into play and untaps 2 lands. It's actually a very strong card. And I remember looking at this card, and I'm like, 1/1. I'm looking, I'm like, okay, I think this is how strong the creatures are. I don't know why you would ever play this card so tiny, That's just like, this was my initial understanding of Magic, just like trying to figure out the rules. But anyway, that was like the initial drip into card games, and then I got super into them, played them ever since, played all kinds of different games. During college, I also was working at a board game card game store, and I was running that while going to college, and I was playing a lot of deck builders like Dominion, Ascension. I was teaching those games to a lot of people. And yeah, so I've always been super into card games, always been strongly opinionated on them. I'm the kind of person who has strong opinions on like, oh, this could be balanced better if they tweak this. And I've always thought about games in that way. So yeah.
I think I'm about to lose an Ascension 10 silent run. I've been leveling up a new account, and the game's actually... Slay the Spire holds together so much better than other games like it that I have played. Like, every difficulty remains interesting, even as like your ability to play at that difficulty changes. The decisions just, I don't know. They keep staying interesting. Casey mentioned that he thought that you kind of missed with the potions mechanic, and like at Ascension 20, when you're really trying to leverage stuff, the potions mechanic actually like comes into its own and feels really interesting. So there are like things I appreciate at lower difficulty, which I'm not thinking about as much at high difficulty, and then there are things I appreciate at high difficulty that I'm not thinking about as much at low difficulty. It's a pretty good game. I'm sure you already know this. Yeah. I am curious what you are happy about this year. What were the good things that happened this year in your gaming and your online community and at MegaCrit, if you want to talk about MegaCrit? I don't know if you want to talk about MegaCrit or not.
Sure. Yeah, I don't know how much I'll talk about MegaCrit, but it's been a good year gaming wise for me. In particular, I've been playing more like games in person with old friends. So been kind of reaching out and reconnecting with people that I played with more in the past. But then, as you get busy and just like always working and adulting. It's easy. Like the dynamic of doing things like sitting down and playing like a tabletop RPG with people or stuff is so much harder as an adult than it was when I was in like college, and I could just effortlessly like do weekly stuff with no commitments and it would be fine. So I think I told you about this recently, but I've been playing this little skirmish mini war game with friends called Malagast. It's made something newish, made by the guy who makes the Kill 6 Billion Demons webcomic, and I've been having fun with that. And then I've just been playing like random games with friends on Discord a lot. So I've been having a good gaming year, I think. Been trying to do more things like that ever since when we were working on Slay the Spire. I like didn't play many games because it was just like wake up, work, go to bed. And it's nice to like kind of have that free time back. Not we're working on our next game, which I can't say anything about, but we're not the work-life balance ratio is a lot better now.
Yeah, that seems healthy. You are now, you did the like crunch out a game, work super hard, this is your passion, this is everything kind of game, and now you get to like try to have a work-life balance maybe? I've had a similar progression in streaming where like I spent maybe 3 years trying really hard to like get where I wanted as a streamer and do the things I wanted, and then I was like, oh yeah, I kind of get this now. And then I like looked at the rest of my life and was like, are there other things that are important too maybe? Yes, of course there are. So.
Yes, it's interesting. I sometimes when I'm telling people about this, I describe it as like, especially at the time, I had this like hunger, right? It was just like, okay, I just have to work on it. And at this point, I feel like I've calmed down more. I'm more like, okay, I need to not just always be burning the midnight oil and kind of like destroying my body to do things. Like it's very important to be more balanced. Now we'll see. Maybe I'll slip back into the mode where I'm overworking, once we get close to an actual release or something. But at least right now I'm very intentionally trying not to do that. And that's why we've I don't know if Casey knows, but we've like expanded our studio a little bit, like hired some other people. So yeah, I think we will hopefully do a better job of this. So and we're pretty adamant about making sure that our like employees don't work more than 40 hours a week. So don't want to inflict on other people what I did to myself,
Yeah. Yeah, it's different when you have other people as well to be thinking about. I have a few employees of sorts. I mean, I have like one for real employee, and then I have people who help me with other things. And I am so much kinder to people who work for me than I am to myself, which is... I should think about it in those terms more than I do, probably.
It makes sense. It's very easier because you're like, well, it's yourself. You think, oh, I can't mistreat myself. I'm doing what I want. But it's it's easy to ignore your own like what your body's telling you, or just push forward. And sometimes that's fine. I think sometimes that it is good to make that trade-off, but it's easy to go overboard, or at least depending on your personality type. I know for me, and I suspect for you, it can be easy to overwork. So
there's so much to do, and also I have a job I enjoy a lot, so there's that part of it too.
Yeah, that's a really big thing. Is like actually enjoying what you're doing and the results of it, and being able to look at, like the thing that you're building and being like, yeah, I did this. That's a very fulfilling thing, Like you can look at this huge community you've built up and be like, this is pretty sweet. This is really cool. You're not just like working on software for some company that's like exploiting people or something. Yeah, the software company I worked at before doing Slay the Spire like worked on basically what I consider to be bloatware. So that was not a very fulfilling job.
How does a company end up working on bloatware? What's like the incentive that leads to that?
Well, the incentive is the money that they get, but basically it's you work out agreements with like the cell phone carriers or whoever to just come pre-installed on the phone, because it's great for you because you have like an immediate like kind of captive audience, and then your agreement gives them some cut of it, right? So
And
I don't know
presumably
the
they're
exact
investors who
details,
wanted to make that
but-
company.
Yeah. Here's the thing. It was a company that like paid me well out of college for doing stuff, and I'm like, hey, I need a job, but it was pretty. Not only was it like not fulfilling work, but it was like very boring work, and it was the kind of thing where it's just like, you don't look forward to going into work, and then as a result, I was always daydreaming about game design. So that's when while I was working at that job, I had started up on an initial game design doc that I was just working on in my spare time, just coming up with ideas, and that was the initial doc for Slay the Spire.
Cool. So something good came of it, at least.
Yeah.
I can definitely relate to the feeling of it being harder to put together gaming time with friends these days, which is maybe kind of surprising to some people because my job is to spend all of my time gaming. So it seems like there should be time. There's something to like... It's just hard to make free time somehow.
Well, it kind of takes like effort to make free time, right? It's you have to like break out of usual patterns and kind of spend some executive functioning on it almost, if you're in a mode where you're just like always doing the default mode thing and you just kind of go about your day, do the usual, and the usuals work or whatever. Actually, like breaking out of that does take effort and thought. So anything that takes effort and thought is like, yeah.
The one game that I got really into this year that very much was like, no, I'm going to make the time to actually get through this was Baldur's Gate 3.
Oh, nice.
Other than Baldur's Gate 3, I haven't played many games that are like more than 2 hours long in a long time. But Baldur's Gate 3 was great. Are you a D&D person?
I am, well, okay, I should say I am a role-playing game person. D&D's not my favorite
GURPS?
tabletop RPG.
Are you a GURPS person?
I like to play a lot of random indie stuff.
Okay.
Kind of similar to so when I'm playing games, I often just like, kind of like you said, I'll often play like a lot of 2 hours of stuff, or like not exactly 2 hours, but I'll try like a new game, I'll play it for a day, and then I don't even necessarily touch it again, or I try all kinds of different indie games. And similarly with tabletop RPGs, I'm always like looking for new rule sets, just trying out different things. I like a lot of like Blades in the Dark style systems, or Dungeon World style systems. But I'm often the DM a lot of the time, so yeah, which is probably, as a DM, I mean, you're kind of doing game design in a sense, so kind of makes sense.
Makes a lot of sense.
I'm often like tweaking things or adding little custom home rules because I'm like, this game would be better for XYZ reasons. So I really like DMing, but actually thinking of starting up a new
Mm-hmm.
new game sometime soon.
That's very exciting.
Maybe I'll hit you up for that if you're interested at all.
I would be very down. My experience of D&D has been that DMing is, I would say, between 3 and 4 times as much work as being a player.
Oh yeah.
That might even be, I mean, there's a lot of flexibility, especially for the players. There's a lot of room to spend more or less energy, and the DM is kind of always spending more energy, and can go even more than that maybe. But yes, my experience of D&D campaigns is I get pretty into them, I enjoy them, I'm there for every session, and then the DM gets like horrifically burned out very quickly, and I feel so bad. But yeah, I love D&D.
It's very easy to happen, and there's a lot of, I don't want to say traps necessarily, because this can be part of the fun for a lot of people, but sometimes as a DM you can be like, you can accidentally end up spending just hours and hours that like can even doing prep work that like doesn't even matter that much. So I've learned to take a more kind of improv style.
That is a powerful thing to be able to do. Yeah.
Yes, because like it's just, I don't want to spend like 3 hours of prep and then the players like, you know, go a totally different direction, and then I'm just like, okay.
I think part of that responsibility is on the players too. Like, as I've gotten better as a D&D player, which I think being a good D&D player is very much a skill that is about working out how to help the story get told, more than about like how do I maximize my character to deal the most damage or whatever. Like that's fun and cool too, but definitely the way that I've felt myself get better as a D&D player is working out how to help the DM tell the story that they are trying to prepare and tell us. When I was starting out, there were sessions where like we were right in front of a dungeon at the end of a week, and the DM was like, all right, well, that's it for the session. You're right in front of the dungeon, really looking forward to next week. And then next week we'd start the session and be like, so I was thinking, actually this dungeon's pretty scary. Maybe we should go to town and get potions. And then we'd like spend the session like in a town on the other side of the world talking to an NPC, and the DM's like, this is probably why my DM's burned out very quickly.
Oh wow. Yeah.
That is something I've gotten much better at though.
That is good. Your DMs will thank you for that.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, one of my least favorite things is handling shopping stuff. I'm at the point where I'm like, magic shops just don't exist in the world. Sorry, it's like this is not a thing. But yeah, I probably the most intense DMing I ever did was I had a game that ran for a solid year, weekly sessions, and the thing that made it work is I said, if you're not there on the week, that's fine. We're going without you. Your character is in the plot hole, and you'll come back when you come back. But I'm gonna keep going, and I could do that in particular because this was the part that was madness. Is it was an 8-player game, so 8 players and then me. This was a Black Crusade game, so it was a 40k universe game. And let me tell you, DMing 8 players is insanity. It is so much work, but I made it work, and I had one player who literally attended every single session, and I don't know, that game, the players loved it, so it worked out, but it was kind of insane. Yeah.
I don't think I've ever had a group of more than 6, and that was only for like a one-shot. My happy zone's like 3 or 4, depending on how talkative we are. I always feel like with 3, everyone gets lots of time in the spotlight, and with 4, it's like maybe one person has a quieter week.
I think 3 to 4 is perfect. That's like, I'm at the point now where I'm like, I will never do anything like the 8-player game again because it was way too much. But But yeah, now I'm like, okay, hard caps, hard limits. Part of what made it work is, so when I was doing this game, I was like working at the game store, so it was done at the game store, so people would show up there, and I would DM while I was working. So it was like, it was the kind of thing where it was a game that we ran at the store, so it was
Sure.
like a service.
I've never done something like that, but there's like, that is something that you do at lots of game stores now, right? Isn't that relatively new? There's like kind of like plug and play campaigns that will run at a store every week, and if you're like, there are kind of global guidelines for what your character can be for the campaign, and then you show up and somebody's running it.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of stuff like that now. This was kind of like a bespoke thing, but nowadays I think there is a lot of stuff where you're like, okay, there's this adventure module, and we'll run through it, and you go from like this level to this level, etc. To try to like streamline stuff. I haven't actually played in one of those though, but
Neither have I. I don't know if I'd enjoy it. Maybe. So much of... Do you play like Magic the Gathering Commander at all? Are you familiar with the idea of Rule Zero?
yeah. I have a. So I don't really play much Magic anymore, but I still do have like 10 commander decks. So
Okay.
yeah. But yes, I know about Rule Zero. Yeah.
Yeah, so much of a D&D experience for me is agreeing on Rule Zero with people, and I would worry about that dropping in with strangers. Also, like, role-playing is a lot better with people you know and trust, because one of the most powerful things that you can do in roleplay is, like, kind of explore places that you wouldn't explore in real life. And I don't mean that in like a particularly raunchy or offensive way. Like, I have anxiety issues, for example, and something that I've done in D&D campaigns is play characters who like deal with mental health stuff, and thought about like, what's a logical way that a character would process this thing? What's a way that a character's messed up brain might lie to them about what's going on right now? And got into play around in a universe like that. And when I'm with friends who like understand that that's what I'm doing and what's going on and what my boundaries are around it, it's really cool. It's been an incredible part of healing for me. I could not do that with strangers. So
Yeah, totally. I agree with that. I mean, there's a level of I guess comfort, right? That will allow you to just explore different things and get into different spots, and you're just not gonna have that comfort with like someone that with people you just don't know, and you don't know how they're gonna react to like maybe how you make jokes or just your level of humor or anything, so.
True, yes. Making sure that people are on the same page with like how serious the campaign is. Do you want to be superheroes, or do you want to be like normal guys, or somewhere in between? There are all sorts of things to work out, and there's no right answer. It's very much just, what does the group want?
Mm-hmm.
I did not actually explain what Rule Zero was, and so people in chat are confused about it. Rule Zero is such an important thing, I think, for any sort of gaming with other people. And there are so many communities where Rule Zero is kind of assumed. I imagine that making video games, you probably run into this a bit, where a lot of the people who play a ton of the video game and get really good expect the video game to be for them. Whereas often the people who are actually developing the game, it's like, well, we have like a few million players and you are one of the top 0.01 percentile. And actually a lot of our decisions have to be about like everybody else,
Yes, exactly. It's can be a tricky balancing act trying to, as a designer, trying to like figure out how to do that kind of stuff.
Do you I don't want to ask you about like Slay the Spire in particular, but I wonder about other games which you've seen try to tackle that, and if you've seen any other games do something that you particularly admire or think is inspirational for that puzzle.
Interesting. Oh man, that's a good question, and I don't have like an answer for it off the top of my head. I'd have to think.
Just like you can leave a pin in it and come back to it if you think of one.
Do you have any games that you think do that particularly well?
One of the things that I'm trying to do this week in talking with lots of people from lots of different places, all of whom I like respect a ton and all of whom are like just very, very impressively good at something, is I'm trying to examine all of the things that are just like massive blind spots in my life. There are things that I just never really think about because they're not in my life, and I'm trying to address how I handle all of this stuff and work out what's the lowest hanging fruit, kind of, or a New Year's resolution almost. One thing that I have fixed on is holding myself accountable to take breaks. I think that's a very, 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 very simple one that somehow I just like have not prioritized in my life. But basically what I'm saying is I asked you that question because I don't know of any in particular and thought you might.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
unfortunately.
Sorry. Yeah. It is interesting because I feel like as a streamer, right, it would be particularly tough to manage that, like actually being able to take breaks and stuff, because you can always just be like, well, my computer's right there. I could just hop on the stream and like, hey, like my community is gonna like it, like they'll make more money, like that it would be it's like it would be very tempting and easy to just like always hop on the stream, I guess. And I could see how you would need to like be very like deliberate about forcing yourself to take breaks, or like maybe travel or something, but because then you wouldn't just be like right by your computer.
Another element to that, which people maybe don't think about that much, is that your phone is very much work as well. Depending on what you have installed on it. And that's true for a lot of people. A lot of people have work on their phones, but work for me on my phone is something that people usually do for fun. Like opening Twitter or Instagram or whatever. For most people, that's like, oh, this will be a relaxing activity. And for me, it's like, that is where I do my job. So even when I'm not sitting next to my computer, that is definitely something that I'm thinking about.
Have you thought about uninstalling the apps that enable that, or do you still think that like, hey, and it's important that I have access to work on my phone?
I am not on Instagram. I uninstalled Twitter for a while recently, and then installed it again not that long after. Because I found that it wasn't too bad.
Okay.
I get the difference between having it and not having it was not as large as I thought it was going to be. Basically, when I didn't have it, I just started playing chess on my phone instead, and it was like, this is not really any different. So, what I actually do to solve this for myself is when I am not on stream, I am very unplugged. I'm very binary with whether I am plugged into the internet or not. My phone doesn't ring. There are like 3 people in the world that can make my phone actually make a sound, and other than that, like it won't even vibrate for
Wow.
anyone or any app. And it often isn't in the room with me. And yeah, I just try to completely get away from it that way, because I think if I have the phone in my hand, there's no real amount of engineering what the phone can and cannot do that's going to get me away.
That makes sense. Yeah, I mean, I will admit that, like, I feel like my phone is basically an attachment to my body at this point. It's it's at the point where if and this is bad, I think, but if I'm somewhere and for whatever reason my phone like isn't in my pocket or something, I will just have like that moment where I'm like, oh, and I like move my hands down to my pocket to like feel like, where's my phone? I'm just like the level of kind of assumed addiction there is very bad. So
do you watch like The Social Network and all of these documentaries?
I actually haven't watched The Social Network. I've heard a lot about it, but I miss a lot of like big movies and documentaries and stuff. I don't watch that many movies. But...
Is it The Social Network? I don't know if it's The Social Network. Tristan Harris is my guy who's my go-to for like what is healthy to be doing with technology in terms of social media and screen time and stuff like that. And he has some really good podcasts where he talks about all of the mechanics that go into addicting you to your phone and puts it in all that context for you. And I wouldn't tell someone not to use a phone in the modern world. That's ludicrous. But for me, hearing him explain it all, like he's a tech guy who worked on a lot of this stuff, so he actually can just tell you factually what is going on here, was really empowering and helped me with basically feeling better about how I was using my phone.
Interesting. Was there like a single thing in particular from that was like most insightful?
One takeaway.
Or
I think the biggest takeaway for me as a content creator was that devices are built to engage you and they don't care about you, which is like probably that's something you already knew, but like that means that things like making you look at the screen for longer because you're outraged are just as desirable to the phone as making you look at the screen for longer because you're having fun. So yeah, if you're there on your phone screen getting upset, that's actually a feature, not a bug. And yeah, that was that one helped me frame a lot of the things that I think when I am plugged into technology, basically, as like, this isn't a thing that's wrong with me, this is just how this product is deliberately built to make me feel, and maybe I should stop using it so much. Yeah.
Yeah. Huh, okay, that makes sense.
Can I ask you about Mahjong?
Sure, go for it.
Are you still very into Mahjong? Because I know you
am.
were. And I feel like is Mahjong getting even bigger in Seattle? So I do a board game day the first Sunday of every month, although in January will be the second Sunday of the month at Stupa Brewing in Capitol Hill. And there are always people playing Mahjong there. And they're
really?
just vibing. It's just like a vibe.
I know that group, I think.
Oh, cool.
Because I'm in their they're local to me as well. They have like a Monday meetup that's local to me, and then I think they do the Sunday or whatever one. Okay.
Sweet.
Yeah. I think it is getting a little bigger, which is interesting. And I actually played Mahjong with Casey and his wife and one of my friends last week. Yeah. So because I have an auto table at home, so we play on that. But I'm kind of actually no, I'm not obsessed with it, but I play a lot and I quite enjoy it. And it's a very fun, high luck, high skill game. So, like for me, I it's like a much better poker, right? So,
Is there betting involved in Mahjong? I'm sure there can be, but is it naturally built into the game?
so it's really interesting. There's no betting, but what when you win a hand, the hands can be worth a variable amount. Like there are hands that are worth very, very little, and there are hands that are worth a ton. And like, traditionally, when it was like a gambling game, your points would be money. There would be some, exchange rate of points to money or whatever, right? And you can actually go into the negative. So what would make it like a particularly potentially insidious game in like a Yakuza setting or something is like, if you go deep into the negative, you you still have to pay out your negative value. So you'd sit down with some amount of money, and then if you go negative, then you have to pay out whatever you went negative into.
Mm-hmm.
But we just play for points, so it's but there's no betting. But basically how it works is there's you can think of it as like a risk reward kind of thing. So the hands that are worth a lot are harder to pull off than the cheap hands that are worth very little. So you can go for like hand efficiency and try to go out really fast, but want to balance that with going for hands that are actually worth like reasonable amounts of points and stuff. So
have you tried Marvel Snap?
I have, yes. I played a little bit of Marvel Snap, yeah.
Is there a little bit of that in Marvel Snap with like the snap mechanic? And I was talking to someone about it a couple of nights ago for the first time. I have not played it yet, but I am being reminded of that conversation where you can because you can concede on turn 1 and lose less basically in that game, yeah?
Yeah, I think Marvel Snaps is a lot more analogous to like traditional poker betting because you can bluff people with it.
Okay.
Because like when you snap, you're signaling strength, and if the opponent like retreats to your snap, then they get so if they retreat to when you snap, you're not gonna get as much as if they keep playing through the game without retreating, but you're basically getting them to fold. So it's kind of like a I don't know the name for it really, but it's like it's kind of like limit hold'em, I guess, because you can only snap back and forth a few times. It caps out at like 8 or whatever. But
so in Mahjong, are you not choosing to stay in the situations where your points go negative? That's just
oh yeah. So I'll explain. So one of my favorite things about Mahjong, there's no true folding because it's 4 players, right? But the thing that makes it really interesting is that so you can win on drawing a tile from the wall, and when that happens, you take points from every player. But you can also, alternatively, you could win by taking the tile when someone discards it. So I discard the tile you need, you say Ron, you get that tile, and then instead of taking points from everyone, you just take points from me.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same amount of points to you, so instead of it being distributed across 3 players, it's just from that person. So there's no technical folding in Mahjong, but what you actually do when you want to fold is you play really defensively. So basically, when you're looking to win off of a tile, right? If you had already previously discarded that tile, you can't take it from me when I discard it. So I play Riichi Mahjong, sorry, by the way, which is the Japanese version. So what's cool about it is by looking at your discard pile, I can discard tiles that are more or less safe. So if I can look at the board and be like, okay, I need a fold. I have no shot of winning. Or, Jorbs is looking really scary right now. He's probably got a sweet hand. I need to fold. And what folding looks like is instead of just saying, okay, I fold, it's you trying to be really strategic and look for the safe tiles to discard. So instead of folding, pulling you out of the hand, it makes you really analyze and look for and try to be strategic and look for safe tiles to discard. So folding is really interesting in Mahjong, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, yes. It is really fun to play a game where losing is still strategically challenging. There's I've been thinking about garbage time quite a lot playing Against the Storm recently, because I think Against the Storm is kind of like a 4x if you took the garbage time out of a 4x. And
oh, nice. There's a lot of garbage time in 4x.
yes, that is very true. And so the team at Hooded Horse, or is that the publisher? I don't know. Anyway, the team did a really good job of like answering the question, like how can we make it fun for someone to play like the first 1 to 2 hours of a 4x where everything's getting discovered, everything's happening, and they're laying the foundations for their plan, and then not force them to sit through 8 hours of executing that plan in a way that becomes tiresome. And yeah, it sounds like Mahjong is pretty good at reducing the garbage time, where in a lot of 4-player games, like someone will lose in the first like half hour or something, and then they like go have dinner or drink on the porch by themselves or something while the other 3 people play for another 2 hours.
Yeah, or you have the thing where they don't actually lose, but they're really totally out of the game.
Oh yeah, which is
and
yeah,
they're still like basically 100% out of the game, but they just have to live through the motions, and maybe they even have like a king-making opportunity late in the game. That's the worst for me. And then they sit there, and like the 2 people are like, well, I hope they screw over the other person and not me.
yeah.
Oh, so
I used to post on a forum with Donald X Vaccarino, who is the person who made Dominion. And he used to say that every multiplayer game is the same game. Which, like, there are elements of truth to that. A lot of multiplayer games have some sort of, like, diplomacy involved, and, like, one player can ruin someone else's game if they want to. And then a lot of PvP games can end up being people kind of aligning with each other deliberately or accidentally, and that causes somebody to be massively favored to win or lose. That's kind of what was meant by that statement.
Right. That statement is a good Twitter post because it's truth adjacent. It's
Sure.
not actually true, but it has some elements of truth to it, you know, and people argue about it.
Yep.
But yes, I mean, like when you're playing Commander or something, I mean, politics is like a huge percentage of the game, right?
Yeah, I think Commander's an example of a game that's really bad for that. But I think that it seems like people are moving more toward playing multiplayer games, which are actually really good with that. Like, you are incentivized to pursue your own goals throughout the entire game, even as situations are changing around you, which is what I want as a player of a game. And
Agreed.
it's cool to see people starting to work out more and more ways to put that together, or just taking games that have been around for a really long time that already knew how to do that, apparently. I don't know how old Riichi Mahjong is, but it's not super new, right?
Yeah, it's pretty old.
Yeah.
Pretty sure.
Alright, I have to wind this up soon, but I am curious if there's stuff you want to talk about that you're excited about in the coming year.
Well, I am like pretty sure we're gonna be able to announce our next game next year. So I would, you know, I'm not gonna put a release date on it or anything because that only ends bad for the dev. But like we should definitely be able to announce. So
sometime next year?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, definitely not this year. Yeah.
Well, that is definitely a thing to look forward to.
But yes, this I'm pretty sure the whole Unity fiasco slowed us down a little bit, but honestly not too much. And I think it's given us a chance to like refactor code and stuff and clean things up. So I think I think the resulting game should actually be in a better shape as a result. So
Yeah, that's really good. I followed the Unity stuff with a lot of interest, but not that much understanding. I mean, I understand that the Unity people communicated extremely poorly, broke good faith, came up with a system that was unenforceable and stupid, and I like kind of generally understand that all, but I wasn't involved in it, you know, so I was just an onlooker, trying to understand how this was affecting all these people who make these awesome games that I get to play. And I am glad that you seem to have come out of it. I really enjoyed Megafrit's tweets. Little bit of social media presence there. Well done.
yeah, it's kind of interesting having a social media presence as someone who like doesn't really like to use social media. So just that whole dynamic is interesting. I don't know. But it worked out in this case. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's really cool. I'm looking forward to it. I think one thing that I'm excited about with your next game is I feel like this is the first time a studio that I love is releasing a game where I really, truly, 100% like know a lot about what goes into making a game and understand that just because you have made one game that was perfect for me doesn't mean the next game is going to be perfect for me or even for me at all. Which feels so healthy. It is one way that I have improved as a human being and as a like consumer of games is like when Into the Breach came out, I played it for 40 to 50 hours and really enjoyed it, and then I was like somehow disappointed that I wasn't playing it for 1,000 hours because I'd played FTL for 1,000 hours, and that's like that's ludicrously unreasonable.
Fascinating.
I have grown as a person since then. Yeah.
I'm interested. Do you know like when you felt disappointed about it? Was it like just like kind of a gut thing, or did you have reasons for it? Did you think, or I'm just wondering like what internally that looked like, if you can.
Sure. I think it was a formative moment in me moving on from these feelings, because Into the Breach was such a pleasant game to play. I really enjoyed my 40 to 50 hours of Into the Breach. Nothing about it like upset me or frustrated me really, but I just got to the end of it for me. Like, I just had played it to a point where I was like, okay, that's how much fun I'm going to have with this game, and now I'm going to move on, which is the natural state for me with almost every game I ever play. It is very, I mean, there is no other game. I'm almost at 9,000 hours of Slay the Spire on Steam. There is no other game I have played this much. But like, I don't know, somehow in the context of streaming, you sometimes will get in your head that there are some games which are meant to be played forever, and there are some games that are meant to be played for like 10 to 20 hours. And it was hard for me to have in my head that like, this is a game where it does have some replayability, and I can get invested in it and want to learn it and keep playing it for a while, but then I'm going to be done, and that's okay. Because I hadn't actually had many games like that. Into the Breach was one of the first where I played it for like quite a long time, but then I like really was done after that. So I think that was what the feeling was for me with that one.
That's really cool. I like that introspection.
Yeah. Does Fortnite the Spire have a release date yet? Would you do a collaboration with Fortnite? Lego is in there now. And Guitar Hero is in Fortnite now.
Wait, really?
Guitar Hero is really in Fortnite now. They bought the license for that game so that they could put it into Fortnite, and that is where you play Guitar Hero now if you want to play Guitar Hero.
That's a lot. If Fortnite wants to put Slay the Spire characters in Fortnite, they should hit me up.
I am sure a lot of people at whatever company makes Fortnite just lost their minds.
Uh,
Yeah. Lucky them.
Rocket League's in there too. Oh man.
Is it
Okay.
really? I didn't know about that one.
Fascinating.
Yeah. That game got so big that it stopped being itself. Have you considered putting Guitar Hero in Slay the Spire, I guess? You could become a competitor instead of an
I
abettor.
can't say I have, but I kind of suspect there's like a mod that does it or something similar.
There are a lot of really sweet mods for this game.
Yeah. I have to say I do love I don't play Slay the Spire for fun, obviously, very much, and like I get all because my relationship with it. But when I do, it's because I'm playing a mod.
Uh-huh.
Like I do like to every now and then check out the mods.
Have you played Downfall?
Oh yeah, played Downfall, which we approved the thing where like they could have.
Oh yeah, they're in the Steam store.
Mm-hmm. But I like it. It's really cool to see like that level of engagement with our game. Just I was talking to another game designer recently, and it was interesting because he was telling me that doing like the stuff like Downfall and things like that is just like crazy to him because he couldn't see like giving somebody else like that level of control with like their game, their product. And I was like, yeah, but I don't know, I just think there's something really special and interesting about allowing other people to do the kinds of things that I like, which is like taking somebody else's design and then like kind of putting their own twist on it. I think that's really cool. So
sure. Yeah. All right. Someone just asked me why I look so good in these jeans, but I'm not even wearing jeans. I don't know what to do with that, Anthony. What am I meant to say?
they're imagining you in jeans right now.
All right.
And you're killing it.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, I have enjoyed a few mods for Slay the Spire, and I'm currently running 7 that are not even changing my gameplay experience, so they're just like letting my Twitch chat mouse over relics on the screen while they're watching, and telling more stuff about my runs and my run history when I go to my run history and stuff like that. So it's not even like the ability for people to mod the game has made a game which already had an incredible user experience able to continue improving its user experience past the stage of active development, which is pretty incredible.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for coming on. I am very excited.
This has been fun, and it's cool to support a good cause.
Yeah. And I'm sure we will chat again soon. Thank you, Anthony.
Yes. It has been fun. It's always good talking with you.
Yeah. It was a great time. And our conversation was exactly 1 run, which is kind of serendipitous. That was not planned. I did not plan to start a run when you arrived, and I did not plan for the run to last as long as our conversation. What a beautiful little content segment. Sometimes things just work out.
Seriously. It does not work.
Char has sent me a photo of the food that she made. My first guess today was she is doing a make a dish from every country in the world journey, which is pretty incredible. And
That's cool.
I don't know what I'm looking at. But I will put it on screen for you, chat, because I think chat is probably excited. The donation's not going?
No, it's not going through. Twitch is giving me an error. Let me.
Has anybody else had issues with Twitch? They've been pretty good. It's theoretically, if it works, it's a good setup. They're directly partnered with the PayPal Giving Fund, and so they're able to give money to the charities at no extra transaction fee.
Here, let me try a different method of payment.
Hey!
There we go.
Thank you so much, Anthony. That is awesome. We are probably getting pretty close to $10,000, which was the goal for the week. If we hit the goal, I just make the goal bigger and keep going. Don't worry, chat. Don't feel bad about hitting it too early. Thank you so much, Anthony, and thank you for being on. You are a pleasure to talk to.
Yeah, it's fun as always, and yeah, hit me up. So have a good luck with the rest of the charity. I'm gonna head out for now, but talk to you later.
Yeah, enjoy the rest of the holiday season with the family. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, I am going to run to the bathroom, and then we're going to hang out with Kathleen from Looting Ready Run. I'm very much excited about. I will be right back.